Hey, what is good, everybody? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we're gonna be talking about SwiftUI and how to achieve this beautiful effect that you see on the right side of the screen right here. Now, this is achieved using metal shaders and metal view. Now, if you're not familiar with metal shaders or metal view, I'm just gonna briefly explain what they are in the most easiest way possible, so please don't quote me on anything. I'm also not new to all of this, so the way I understand it is the way I'm going to explain it. So if you're coming from OpenGL or if you're coming from Vulkan, you know when you're basically setting up your renderer, you're gonna have to at some point set up a surface to render to. Now that surface that you create in Vulkan is simply just a metal view when it comes to Apple products, right? So in metal, we have a metal view, which is also a surface to render all your graphics to, right? 2D graphics, 3D graphics, whatever that you can see visually too, right? So hopefully that is a much easier explanation. I don't want to complicate things with deeper analogies and all of that, so please, hey, the way I understand is the way I'm explaining, okay? So this metal view is what allows us to essentially achieve the effect that you see right here. Now, this effect is achieved using shaders. Now, as of Xcode 15, I believe Apple has added the functionality to basically use metal shaders within your SwiftUI views to basically achieve some pretty neat effects. So yeah, in this video we are essentially just creating our own dedicated metal view to basically be able to render our own visual effects too, right? So let me dissect how this visual effect is achieved. Okay, I'm gonna call it a visual effect because I don't know what to call it. But how did we achieve this, and how is it achieved essentially, right? So if you're new to graphics APIs, well, this is achieved essentially by triangles. Everything is made up of triangles. So to illustrate this, I'm gonna go down to my shaders, and then I'm just going to uncomment all of this out. I'm going to comment all of that out and uncomment this bit of line at the bottom, which essentially is just going to clear our metal view and just make it green. Now this green that you're seeing here, I want you to think of it as our canvas, right? So I'm going to scale our canvas down to see what our canvas is essentially made up of. So I'm going to go down into renderer, and I'm just going to comment these vertices, and then I'm going to uncomment these vertices, and these vertices are just these vertices scaled down. Okay, so when we come back to our content view and just let it refresh, what you're gonna be seeing is our canvas has just been scaled down. All right, now remember I said I wanted to show you what our canvas is actually made up of. Well, guess what? Our canvas is essentially made up of triangles. Now this is what everything is made up of in graphics engines. Essentially, it's just triangles behind the scenes, so when we come back to our content view, just let it refresh, and boom, we have a triangle. Now this single triangle, right, is what we essentially call our canvas, or what we're gonna call our canvas in this video. Okay, to simplify things, right? This is not really a canvas, but we're gonna call it a canvas to simplify things. All right, so we want a square canvas, right? So what do? We just create another triangle. So I'm just going to comment this line and come back to our content view, and then hold on, sorry, let's just add in a comma there. So we're going to come back to our content view, just let it refresh, and boom, our canvas is now a full square. Right, so now we want to start drawing to our canvas. So how do we do that? Well, this is where shaders come in. So here, this is what we call a metal shader file, right? It's called shaders.metal. So within this file, this is where you're going to be basically defining two functions. One is your vertex shader, and the other one is your fragment shader. Now, your vertex shader is essentially associated with positions of your vertices, which are the points of your triangle. So here, the position here, the position here, and the position here, and the position there, that is what your fragment shader basically stores and also basically gives out as output to your fragment shader. All right, now I'm explaining this in the most simplistic way possible. Of course, there's more to this than what I've just told you. So yeah, all right, so essentially now when we come down to the fragment shader, we taking out that output, which then consists out of the positions of those vertices, and then basically we take in those positions, and then we can essentially do some math to essentially achieve beautiful effects, right? Yes, math is involved when it comes to shaders, unfortunately. So for those who are not mathematically inclined, I don't think you'll enjoy this, but hey, anything is possible, right? So back to our content view, what you're seeing right now is a green color. This green color essentially just comes from the vertex color that is coming from our renderer, which if you look at our vertices, they all have this color attached to them. So that is the green that you're seeing on our canvas. All right, if I were to change one of these colors and just change this one as well, and just maybe say 0.8, I don't know, and then come back to our content view, you'll see that we have a different color over here, just to illustrate that these are two triangles actually just meshed together to form one shape, namely called a quad. All right, so back to the renderer. Let me just undo what I just did and just make everything the same color, and therefore when I come back to our metal shader file, let's achieve the effect that this video is all about, now that we understand how our canvas is essentially made up of and how it was achieved. All right, so first and foremost, if you're coming from ShaderToy, if you're familiar with ShaderToy, you'll know that we have a UV that we can basically get and then get the divided by the resolution, and then do awesome mathematics to basically get the origin of our UV. So at this, what this does is essentially we want the center of our canvas to be 0, 0. So what this code does is essentially just that. All right, so and then we're gonna have to have some basic colors defined. Since we want to draw a circle and we want certain circles to be a certain color, I've defined some basic colors here. We have black, white, blue, orange, and then another variable called color, which will then be used essentially to illustrate further what our canvas looks like. So if I go down here and then I say return color, and then I just comment on the one that is below there, we're going to be returning this color, which essentially is taking in our UV position X and our UV position Y, and therefore essentially is going to achieve a pretty cool effect, which you'll be basically seeing right here. Now to basically show you that what a fragment shader does, essentially I'm just going to comment this out, and then uncomment, and then just come back to the canvas view, content view, and you'll see that we have this beautiful gradient that is essentially going on here. Now this gradient is achieved due to the fact that every pixel on the fragment shader is being given a particular color based on the position of that particular pixel. All right, hopefully I explained that in a understandable way, but anyway, I'm going to uncomment this, and then what this code does essentially, like I told you, is that it essentially just shifts everything so that we can have an origin in the middle. All right, now I just scaled down our canvas, so this is not exactly proportional, so to the mathematics that I basically had in my shader. So yeah, but now we have, think about it as we have two quads, we have four quads, we have this quadrant and this quadrant and this quadrant and this quadrant, right, with our center being in the middle, because it's very important that we have our center in the middle, because we want to draw a circle. So how do we draw a circle? First and foremost, when we draw a circle, we know that we need a radius for a circle, and then we need the center for the circle, and then since we're drawing a size distance circle, right, we need to get the distance to the circle from the center. So therefore we have this little function defined above here to do all of that, to get the size distance fill circle for us. And then we're going to basically get the distance to the circle, and then from there we're going to draw the circle. So once I go back to the content view now, what you're going to be seeing is a circle drawn in the middle of our canvas. Now the color of this circle is achieved with basically all of this. Okay, essentially what we say that is that if the distance to the circle is greater than 0, then the color of the circle will be, everything will be orange. And then if it's anything less than 0, then we know it's within the circle radius, so therefore our circle will be blue. Hence why you can see that everything on our canvas outside the circle is actually orange, but then anything within the radius of our circle is blue. All right, so now we've got our circle drawn. So how do we add, a black outline to our circle? Essentially, we're just going to uncomment this line of code, and then when we go back down to our canvas, we're just going to wait for it to refresh, and voila, we have this little gradiently opaque, I don't even know how to describe this circle that is bleeding out with like black on the edges, right? So what we want to do now is to add in those other circles that you essentially saw, but those aren't truly circles, they're just waves. So when we uncomment that line of code, we're gonna get that effect whereby we now start seeing all these other circles around it. All right, so once we have that, we're just going to add in a border to our circle, and then go back to the content view, and then we'll see that now we have a border around our circle which is white, and therefore when we come back, we'll then get the final results that we saw at the beginning of this video, which then just mixes more of our colors together to achieve a much better result, and which is then this that you see right here. So that is essentially the effect, and that is essentially how you achieve that effect. So I'm just going to scale up back our canvas to where it was originally. So I'm just going to go back here and then comment this out, and then just uncomment this, sorry about that, uncomment these lines of code, save, and come back to our content view, and boom, we have that beautiful effect. And essentially guys, that is how you set it up in SwiftUI. This video was not as in depth, it was more of a breakdown on how I achieved this, but if you want me to go in depth and you want me to show you guys how to create your own metal view, how to create the renderer, and how to explain, and you want me to explain everything more in depth, then do hit me up in the comment sections below, and I'll gladly try to do my best in explaining it in a much more easier way to understand. Without any further ado guys, this is how you achieve this effect in SwiftUI. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe if you enjoyed this content, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.